The year was 1930. The Great Depression had the country on its knees. In West Dallas, Texas, poverty wasn't just a condition, it was a way of life. And it was there, in a cramped kitchen, that Bonnie Parker sat at the table, scribbling poetry into a notebook. Bonnie was only 19, pretty, quick-witted, and full of dreams. She had once wanted to be an actress or a writer. Instead, she worked as a waitress, scraping tips and watching her future slip away. Clyde Barrow, on the other hand, had already tasted steel bars. 21 years old, angry, and raised in a world that punished the poor, Clyde had learned early that the only way to survive was to take. Their paths crossed in January of 1930 in the home of a mutual friend. Clyde was nursing a wound. Bonnie offered him a cup of coffee. He smiled. She laughed. The moment they saw each other, something just clicked. According to people who knew them, it was love at first sight. Bonnie was drawn to Clyde's confidence and charm, and Clyde was captivated by Bonnie's fierce spirit and beauty. Even though their romance started fast, it didn't take long for things to turn dangerous. Clyde was arrested days later, but Bonnie visited him in jail. She smuggled him a pistol, and with it, he escaped. He was quickly caught again, but that act sealed their bond. When Clyde was finally released in 1932, the world outside hadn't changed, but he had, so he swore he'd never go back to prison. How about Bonnie? She was already waiting. They started small, stealing cars, robbing grocery stores, but it didn't take long before they were in too deep to turn back. To Bonnie, Clyde wasn't a criminal. He was her escape, her rebellion, her fire. And to Clyde, Bonnie wasn't a burden. She was his anchor, the one person who never flinched. By 1933, the two were part of a loose gang: Clyde's brother Buck, Buck's wife Blanche, and a few others who came and went. They robbed banks, shot their way out of traps, and became infamous across the Midwest. In April, police raided their hideout in Joplin, Missouri. The gang escaped, but left behind something no bullet could erase: a roll of undeveloped film. Inside were photos: Bonnie playfully pointing a pistol at Clyde, Clyde pretending to shoot her with a shotgun. The press ate it up. Soon their names were on every front page. The public was obsessed. Some saw them as folk heroes, young rebels sticking it to a corrupt system. Others saw them for what they were: armed and dangerous fugitives. But the romance was never all roses. The road was hard, the violence constant. In 1933, Clyde crashed a stolen car. Bonnie's leg was badly burned. She never walked the same again. Clyde carried her when she couldn't move. They lived in ditches, slept in fields, ate from cans, and killed when they had to. They weren't Robin Hood and Maid Marian. They didn't give to the poor, but they were poor, and in a world that offered them nothing, they took what they could. In 1934, Clyde orchestrated a daring breakout from the Eastham prison farm, killing a guard in the process. That act finally crossed the line. The Texas Department of Corrections brought in a man with one job: end it. His name was Frank Hamer, a legendary former Texas Ranger. For months, Hamer tracked them across 5 states, watching, waiting, setting a trap. On the morning of May 23, 1934, Bonnie and Clyde were driving down a quiet Louisiana road. They were supposed to meet a gang member's father, but the father had already made a deal with Hamer. 6 lawmen waited in the bushes. When Clyde slowed to see the man by the road, Hamer gave the signal. Over 130 bullets tore through the Ford V8. Clyde was killed instantly. Bonnie screamed before she passed away. It was over in less than 20 seconds. The photos were splashed across newspapers before their blood dried. Crowds gathered to see their bullet-riddled car. Souvenir hunters stole locks of Bonnie's hair and bits of Clyde's clothing. But the legend didn't die with them. It only grew. There were songs, movies, ballads, and endless retellings. But behind the smoke and gunfire, there was always just Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow, two kids who believed the world had already given up on them. Bonnie once wrote in a poem, "Someday they'll go down together. They'll bury them side by side. To few it'll be grief, to the law a relief." But it's death for Bonnie and Clyde. They didn't live long. They didn't die old. But for a brief moment in America's darkest hour, Bonnie and Clyde lit a match.